In this video, we will revise modern history for Prelims 2024. So let's start. The modern history starts with the advent of Europeans, and this gentleman man is none other than Vasco da Gama. He arrived in 1498 and marked the beginning of European colonialism in India. He established a direct sea route between Europe and India. Uh, the Portuguese, followed by other European powers, sought to control the lucrative spice trade, leading to the establishment of trading posts and fortification along the Indian coastline. So, all the Indian history will change after this gentleman will come to the India and will have a direct sea route, and then they will try to control specifically the lucrative spice trade, and then slowly what will happen is that they will control all the raw materials along with the affairs of the country. So the arrival of Vasco da Gama in Calicut, which is now known as Kozhikode, in 1498 had a significant impact on Indian history. The Hindu ruler of Calicut, the Zamorin, welcomed him as the prosperity of his kingdom relied on trade. Then in 1505, Francisco de Almeida was appointed as the governor of India with the mission to consolidate Portuguese influence and destroy Muslim trade. Almeida aimed to make the Portuguese the master of the Indian Ocean through his blue water policy, which is extremely important. Okay. Then comes Alfonso the Albuquerque. So Alfonso the Albuquerque succeeded Almeida and established Portuguese bases strategically overlooking the entrance to the Indian Ocean. Goa was acquired from the Sultan of Bijapur in 1510. Very important fact. Becoming the first Indian territory under European control since Alexander the Great's time. Okay. Now what happens is slowly there is a decline of the Portuguese. By the 18th century, the Portuguese in India experienced a decline in their commercial influence. The Marathas captured Salicet and Basin from the Portuguese in 1739. The religious policies of Portuguese, including the activities of the Jesuits, caused political concerns, leading to resentment among Hindus. So, though there was decline in the power of Portuguese holding the territories of India, lekin if you see their influence is in our food basket, their influence is in our architecture. If you will go to Goa, you will see the architecture, Portuguese architecture, which is still prevalent as shown in the photo. Now, after Portuguese, there is advent of Dutch as well as English. So, in 1602, the States General of the Netherlands merged various trading companies to form the East India Company of the Netherlands, granting it authority to conduct wars, negotiate treaties, and acquire territories. The Dutch established their control over Masulipatam in 1605 and Pulicat after Masulipatam in 1610. Meanwhile, in 1600, Queen Elizabeth I issued a charter granting exclusive trading rights to the newly formed Governors and Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies, which is popularly known as East India Company. Okay. The English began trading at Masulipatam in 1611 and established a factory there in 1616. However, English had established a strong foothold in West, South India, and specifically the prosperous Bengal. So, in 1612, Captain Thomas Best defeated the Portuguese in a sea battle of Surat, leading to Jahangir granting permission for an English factory in a very important strategically Surat in 1613. Bombay was gifted to King Charles II in 1662 and later given to the East India Company and in 1668. becoming their headquarters in 1687. The English also obtained trading privileges from the Sultan of Golconda and built a fortified factory at Madras in 1639. Now, the most important and which created a fate of British East India Company, which ruled over the Indian territory, was just because they got the prosperous Bengal. It was a detrimental factor. So Bengal, why it was a detrimental factor? Because it was prosperous and significant province of the Mughal Empire. It attracted English merchants due to its trade and commercial opportunities. In 1651, Shah Suja, the Subadar of Bengal, granted the English permission to trade in Bengal in exchange for an annual payment. After negotiations, Job Charnock signed a treaty with the Mughals in 1619, allowing the English to establish a factory at Sultanuti. The fortified settlement was named Fort William in 1700, becoming the seat of the Eastern Presidency, Calcutta. So there were villages which were combined to make Calcutta, Sultanuti, Govindpura, Kalikata, all these were merged to make the Calcutta city, and in the photograph you can see the Fort William. Then comes the French as well as Danish. So French were the last European power to come in India. In 1664, during the reign of Louis XIV, Minister Colbert established the Compagnie des Indes Orientales, which is a French East India Company, which received a 50-year monopoly on French trade in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Specifically in Pondicherry, founded in 1674, became the nerve center of French power in India. Okay. The Danish East India Company, also known as the Danish Asiatic Company, was established in 1616 and 1620. They founded a factory at Trankebar near Tanjore on the eastern coast of India. Their principal settlement was at Serampur near Calcutta. Now, before going to the French Revolt, you need to remember that British had a upper hand because of the following reason. They mainly had clashes with French, but British had better leadership. They had able leadership like Robert Clive. British had better naval supremacy over French. British were a private company, not a government company like French, which was facing red tapeism and issue of corruption as well as British occupied the prosperous Bengal, from which they can control the northern part as well. What French focused was on the mostly on the southern India. That is why they were not able to gain control over vast Gangetic plains. And at that time, Bengal provided a lot of raw materials. So the prosperity of British also enhanced a lot. Now, what will happen is there will be 2-3 battles that will happen between the French as well as the Britishers, in which they will thrash French. Okay, finally, and then they will have virtually monopoly over the vast Indian territories. Rest others started focusing either on Indonesia, etc., and virtually could not challenge British East India Company. So all the Government of India acts I have covered in a separate video. Okay, a modern history timeline also I have covered in a separate video. Revolutionary movement also I have discussed in a separate video in detail, and important Gandhian movements individually I have discussed. All these video links I will share in the description. It will take hardly 50 to 55 minutes. If you want to go into great detail, you can watch those videos. I will put the link in the description. Now, what will happen is, after gaining virtually monopoly of the vast Indian territories, they will start misusing the powers that they will gain, the economic power. First, they will get the dastak. So दस्तक से क्या होता था, it were like a free passes for trade. So they started amassing a lot of property, and इससे फिर there will be conflict with the Indian rulers, like in 1757 with Siraj-ud-Daulah in 17 known as a Battle of Plassey, after a black hole tragedy, okay, in which so many British soldiers died. Then he will be defeated, Siraj-ud-Daulah. Then in 1764, they will Britishers will defeat the combined armies of Mughal Emperor as well as Siraj-ud-Daulah, etc., in the fierce battle. After that, there will be virtually no challenge for Britishers for so many years. There will be battles with forces like Tipu Sultan, है ना, Anglo-Mysore War, in which in the first Anglo-Mysore War, Hyder Ali will have an upper edge. Okay, then slowly he will die. Tipu Sultan will come, and Tipu Sultan will specifically be defeated in the third Anglo-Mysore War, and in fourth he will be virtually finished. So all these wars will be going on, but the formidable challenge will come in 1857 revolt, and it will have many reasons. Specifically, if I have to tell, there are religious reasons like introduction of missionaries, as well as in the army or in the forces. What will happen is they will try to have certain restrictions as well on religious symbols. They will occupy Awadh. Awadh was a prosperous region, and in the manner they will occupy with the use of doctrine of lapse. Uh, a lot of kingdoms will have a lot of distress, a lot of backlashes, and all these kings or queens whose regions will be taken away with force by the Britishers, they will gather. A spark point will be the grease cartridge, which will have to open by biting from mouth, and it was said that it contained the cow as well as pig meat, and thus sparked the a kind of anger in both Hindus as well as Muslims. And the spark point is in Barakpur. What happens is Mangal Pandey opens fire, and from there 1857 revolt starts. So it is also known as Sepoy Mutiny because it started from the Sepoy itself. And popularly it is also called as First War of Indian Independence. Who called it first was Veer Savarkar, who wrote a book. It was a significant uprising against British rule in India. The revolt had various leaders and centers across different regions, which is extremely important. So in the place Delhi, the leader was Bahadur Shah II, and as well as General Bakht Khan. In Lucknow, the leader was Begum Hazrat Mahal, as well as Birjis Qadir. In Kanpur, the leader was Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Ajimullah Khan. In Jhansi, famous brave Rani Lakshmi Bai. Okay, and in Bihar, Jagdishpur, a 80-year-old Kumar Singh who will give a fierce reply to Britishers. What will happen is that there will be several changes brought by Britishers. They will take the territory of India in direct control of the Queen, as well as there will be establishment of Viceroy, and they will try not to have any kind of major social reforms, because they will understand that these are very sentimental issues, as well as they will increase the ratio of white in the army as well. And then they will start having this classification, martial, non-martial races, and martial races will be tried to reduced. Okay, all of these will happen after 1857. Now we will see major tribal uprising in India. So I will provide an overview of significant tribal uprising that occurred in various regions of India, spanning from the late 18th century to the early 20th centuries. These uprisings were fueled by the tribal communities' resistance against the oppressive policies and exploitation by the British colonial rulers and local authorities. ठीक है. So what will happen is that they will try to use the forest as their source of raw material. They will also introduce a lot of outsiders in the tribal regions, They will try to meddle with the tribal social customs with the introduction of missionaries. All of these will spark rebellion in all of the major tribal regions across the country. As you can see, there will be rise of a charismatic leader who will be compared with the god, whether it was Birsa Munda or the other leaders in the various tribal movements. So, first of all, we will see the early tribal uprisings from 1776 to 1837. So, the first was Chuar uprising, organized by Aboriginal tribesmen of Midnapur against land revenue demands and economic distress. Then there will be Pahariya's rebellion in 1778, headed by the Raja Jagannath, who led the Pahariyas of Raj Mahal Hills against British expansion on their land around the Jharkhand region. Okay. Then there will be Bhil uprising in 1818 to 1831 in the Western Ghats against the company's rule. They formed Bhil Raj, reorganized again in 1913 under Govind Guru to fight for Bhil Raj. Then there will be Ho and Munda uprising in from 1820 to 1837 by Ho tribals led by Raja Parhat in Singhbhum and Chota Nagpur region against new farming revenue policies. This later became the Munda rebellion. Now we will see uprisings in western and central India from 1822 to 1870s. The first is Ramosi uprising by the Ramosi tribals of Western Ghats under Chittur Singh against Britishers' occupation of the region. Then Kol rebellion in 1832, tribals of Chota Nagpur under Buddho Bhagat revolted against Britishers and moneylenders. Then there will be Koli uprising in 1829, 39, 44 to 48. The tribals of Gujarat and Maharashtra revolted against the company's control in 1829, 39 and again in 1844 to 48. Then Naikada movement in 1868, tribals of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat against British and caste Hindus to establish Dharma Raj. The last will be Kharwa rebellion in 1870s, the tribals of Bihar led by Bhagirath Maji against revenue settlement activities. Then uprising in eastern India from 1837 to 1900 approximately. The first is Khond rebellion in 1837 to 56. The tribal of hills from Tamil Nadu to Bengal led by Chakra Bisoi revolted against interference in tribal customs and the imposition of new taxes. Okay. There will be Santhal rebellion, which is extremely important. In 1855 to 56, the tribals of Bihar led by Siddo and Kanho against money lenders and zamindars. They used to call them collectively Dikkus. Okay. Then Bhuyan and Joang rebellions in 1867 to 1891. Tribes of Koinjhar, Odisha revolted twice in 1867 and 1891. Then there will be Munda rebellion from 1899 to 1900, which is famously also called as Ulgulan. The tribals of Chota Nagpur area revolted under Birsa Munda against the outsiders or the Dikkus, which is extremely important. Uprising in southern India, we will have a look. So in Koya uprising happened from 1879 to 1880. Region was Eastern Godavari region. Leaders were Toma Sora and Raja Anantyar. Then Bastar revolt in 1910 and in the region of Jagdalpur by the tribals. Then Tana Bhagat movement, which is extremely important. It started in 1914, ended in 1919. Region was Chota Nagpur and it was done by Jatra Bhagat and Balram Bhagat. Then Chinchu's uprising in 1921 to 22 in the Nallamala Hills by K. Hanumantu. Okay, so this classification is very rough because you can see many of the eastern movements also included in southern India and in the previous slides as well. I have tried roughly to classify them, but you can see some of the eastern movements included in southern, some of the southern in eastern. Okay. Then there is Rampa rebellion, which happened in Andhra Pradesh, and it was led by Alluri Sitaram Raju of Koyas, and it is very important. Then in northeast India, we will see the movements. The first is Ahom's revolt. from 1828 to 33 in Assam against non-fulfillment of Britishers' promise to leave their region after the Burmese War. And a famous, an important person who will lead this movement is Lachit Bhopukan. In the image, you can see all these great warriors of Ahoms. Okay. Khasis will revolt in 1830s, led by Tirath Singh in the hills of Jayantia and Garo against the occupation of their region. Then Singpo's rebellion in Assam against occupation of their region by Britishers. Hukkis will revolt in 1917 to 19 in Manipur against British policies of recurring labor during World War. Then there will be Jeling Song movement in 1920 by tribes of Manipur against the failure of the British to protect them during the Kuki violence. And there will be Naga movement from 1905 to 31 by tribals of Manipur led by Jadongang against British rule and to form Nagaraj. Now we will quickly see the socio-religious movements in 19th and 20th century. So the 19th and 20th century witnessed the emergence of various social religious movements in India aimed at reforming society and promoting social and religious reforms. So, what was the reason behind it? The reason was, first of all, the glorious past of India was somehow again revived by some of the Britishers like William Jones, Max Muller, Alexander Cunningham. There was establishment of Archaeological Survey of India. There was translations of the important religious text. There was also a lot of excavation which also led to the knowing of Ashoka the Great. Also, Brahmi was deciphered. All of these were happenings, and thus the glorious past was revived. And secondly, there was introduction of modern English education. Thus, a kind of scientific temper or rationality was also introduced, and the English educated classes, initially also known as middle class intelligentsia, initiated the socio-religious reform movements in 19th and 20th century by forming a reform society and promoting social and religious reforms. So there were different movements which I have tried to classify. Again, there is no watertight compartmentalization. There were religious movements which tried to have some kind of reform within the religion. They can be progressive, they can be regressive as well. The first is Wahhabi Waliullah movement in 1702 to 62. Second is Brahmo Samaj, which I have discussed while I have talked about the important personality in a separate video which you can watch to cover all the important personalities. Okay. Then there was Arya Samaj movement in 1875 by the Anand Saraswati, Ram Krishna Mission in 1897, okay, led by Swami Vivekanand. Then there were social movements like Atmiya Sabha, Pratna Samaj, Indian Reform Association. Okay, all of these were basically trying to have to uplift the conditions of so-called untouchables and also women, widow, etc., etc. There was establishment of Theosophical Society, which again wanted to revive the Vedic culture and Vedic philosophy. There were educational movements as well, like Mohammedan Educational Conference by the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Deccan Education Society, which was established in 1884, Servants of India Society by Gopal Krishna Gokhale in 1905, as well as Social Service League in 1911. You must be hearing the name of Narayan Malhar Joshi, must have read about him, can explore a bit more. He is important. Then we will see important Congress sessions. So there was establishment of Indian National Congress. There were so many associations which were formed before Indian National Congress by Dwarkanath Tagore, like Landholder Society. There were so many establishment by the Anand Bose and Satyendranath Surendranath Banerjee, है ना? Surendranath Banerjee also established, Shishir Kumar Ghosh. So many prominent leaders established so many organizations which culminated into the formation of Indian National Congress. There is an alternate theory that it was established by Britishers themselves as a lightning conductor to not have a movement like 1857, which is an alternative theory. That is why it was established under a Britishers A.O. Hume. Okay, this is an alternate theory which is also given in the Bipin Chandra Pal and other important books. So it was established in 1885 in Bombay, and first session was attended by 72 delegates. Okay, and Vomesh Chandra Banerjee was the first president, which you need to remember. 1906 in Calcutta was an important session. The word Swaraj was mentioned for the first time. 1909 in Amritsar, there was a Jallianwala Bagh massacre was strongly condemned. In 1929 Lahore session, resolution for Purn Swaraj and launching of civil disobedience movement happened. Okay, and in 1938 Haripura, there was establishment of National Planning Committee, which was set up under Jawaharlal Nehru. The president of the Congress session was Subhash Chandra Bose, but president of National Planning Committee was Jawaharlal Nehru. In 1931, also the Karachi session, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was president. It is very important for fundamental rights, etc., which you can remember as well. Okay, and there are other sessions as well, for like Surat split and all of these, which you can read a bit. Gandhian movements. So you can see young Gandhiji. He became barrister. He went to South Africa. He formed Natal Indian Congress and Natal Congress, and fought against apartheid, and all the issues that Indians going to Africa for labor and etc. had to face. They had to put always documents. Their marriage was also was not legalized. They were so all of these were happening. So if you want to read more, you can read the activities of Gandhiji, establishment of Tolstoy farm, etc. So he fought a fierce legal battle for 20 years, 20 long years. He was there in the South Africa, and from there he became Mahatma. Okay. So they say popularly that you gave Gandhi, we gave you Mahatma, South Africa, and his battle also inspired the Nelson Mandela, because it was bloodless. It was based on truth. It was based on non-violence. Okay. So Gandhiji returned to India in January 1915. He was very popular. Everyone wanted to see him after his successful non-violent resistance against racial discrimination in South Africa. He spent 1 year traveling across British India on the advice of Gopal Krishna Gokhale, because he considered him the political guru, familiarizing himself with the land and its people. In February 1916, Gandhiji made his first major public appearance at the inauguration of Banaras Hindu University, where he revealed his desire to make Indian nationalism more representative of the Indian masses. His speech in 1916 is extremely important. The first stint with the Satyagraha will be tested in Indian soil in Champaran in 1917. The Champaran Satyagraha was Gandhi's first attempt at mobilizing the masses, initiated on an invitation by Rajkumar Shukla to address the flight of indigo peasants. This Gandhian movement was the first civil disobedience in India. Okay. It was against Teen Kathiya system. Peasants were forced to grow indigo on 3/20 part of their total land under the exploitative Teen Kathiya system. Second, Gandhiji intervened but was asked to leave by authorities. He refused, disobeying the order, and eventually convinced the government to abolish the Teen Kathiya system. That is why it is called as civil disobedience. The participants were Rajendra Prasad, Narhari Parikh, and J.B. Kripalani were among the participants in this movement. Then there will be Ahmedabad mill strike in 1918 and Kheda Satyagraha in 1918. So in Ahmedabad, following the Champaran Satyagraha, Gandhi mobilized the textile workers of Ahmedabad in a strike against mill owners over the discontinuation of plague bonus. Gandhi intervened at the request of Anusuya Sarabhai and took a fast unto death. This is first. fastened to death by Gandhiji, resulting in a 35% wage hike for the workers. This was the first movement where fasting was used by Gandhiji as a political weapon in India. Then there will be Kheda Satyagraha. Due to crop failure and rising prices, the peasants of Kheda district demanded revenue relief from the government. Gandhiji intervened on the behalf, advising them to withhold payment and fight unto death against tyranny. The government eventually ordered restraint in revenue collection. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Narhari Parikh, and Indulal Yagnik were among the participants in the first non-cooperation by Gandhiji. So the first non-cooperation was in Kheda. Then there will be Satyagraha against the Rowlatt Act. Rowlatt Act allowed political activities to be tried without judicial proceedings or imprisoned without trial for 2 years. That is why it is known as Kala Kanun. Gandhiji's Satyagraha, Gandhiji called it as a Black Act and launched a Satyagraha involving fasting, praying, and civil disobedience. He established Satyagraha Sabha. Gandhi organized the Satyagraha Sabha to carry out the movement, which brought him to the forefront of the Indian national movement. Then there will be non-cooperation movement, which will be launched in 1921. The aftermath of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Gandhiji launched the non-cooperation movement. In 1920, demanding self-government as well as addressing the Khilafat and Punjab grievances. This Gandhian movement merged with the Khilafat movement, which demanded that the Turkish Sultan retain control over Muslim sacred places. Okay, so it has been criticized as well, inclusion of religious issues in the movement uh, by some of the historians as well, and some of the political leaders as well in the past. So, Calcutta session in September 1920, the Congress held a special session in Calcutta and resolved to accept Gandhi's proposal of non-cooperation with the British government. The method included the boycott of schools, colleges, courts, government offices, legislatures, and foreign goods, as well as the return of government conferred titles and awards. Gandhiji withdrew the movement following the Chauri Chaura violent incidents in February 1922, where 23 police officials were killed. He then focused on the constructive program of social reforms, which also sparked a lot of debate that should the movement, it was the right time to withdraw the movement or not, and thus there was establishment of Swaraj Party as well by Chittaranjan Das. They will try to have some legislative reforms. The leadership that will be created will be utilized also in the revolutionary movements. There will be a stint of movements in whole 1920s, which we have discussed in a separate video. The link I have posted in the description. Civil disobedience movement will happen in 1930 to 34. So the civil disobedience movement, also known as the Salt Satyagraha, was the second major mass movement and a significant advancement in broadening the social reach of India's freedom struggle. Gandhiji announced the Dandi March against the unjust tax on salt, violating the salt regulation on April 6, 1930, and launching the movement. So Gandhi violated the salt regulation, and the Indian National Congress in its Lahore session 1929 had demanded Purn Swaraj and declared January 26 as Independence Day, which I have discussed in the previous slides as well. There was a widespread defiance induced by Gandhiji's efforts. Defiance of the salt laws spread throughout the country, though it was halted for a period after the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. And there will be roundtable conferences, okay, in which first roundtable conference Gandhiji will not participate, in second he will participate, there will not be any agreement, and in third also he will not participate. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar will participate in all three. Jinnah etc. will participate in all three, which will result into a communal award by Ramsay MacDonald, in which the untouchables will be provided the separate electorate, that is the SC's scheduled caste will be electing the scheduled castes for themselves, thus virtually creating a divide and rule among the Indian people, then Gandhiji will go for fasten to death, which will result into Pune Pact. So that separate electorate will be replaced by joint electorate, which still exists, the reservation. Okay, and that will be done by the mediation of Madan Mohan Malviya, who was also known as Mahamana, and he established the Manas Hindu University, okay, which is also known as Kashi Hindu Viswavidyalaya. Then we will see Quit India movement. The Quit India movement, launched on August 8, 1942, was the third great wave of India's struggle for freedom led by Gandhiji. It was a rejection of British rule influenced by the failure of the Cripps mission and the hardship caused by the World War II. On August 8, the All India Congress Committee passed the Do and Die resolution, Karo ya Maro, demanding an end to British rule and the formation of provisional government. Okay, the impact were major leader were arrested, and protest continued across the country. There were underground movements, and there were formation of Banar Senas. Many new leaders emerged like Jayaprakash Narayan. You know, there were also parallel governments like Parthi Sarkar by Chittu Pandey in Tamulk also was a parallel government was established. Okay, so Satara, all of these were happening. There were so many young leaders and like Aruna Safali, who also participated. There was a radio which was organized by Usha Mehta. So all of these happened, and there was also use of violence in Quit India movement, unlike other Gandhian movements. Uh, After that, like in between civil disobedience and Quit India, there will be rise of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I have discussed in great detail in important personalities about the involvement of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, his all the important works, how he was a major person even inside the Congress to include women's, and also his activities, literary activities, his establishment of Forward Bloc, his two stints as a Congress president, and then the formation of Azad Hind Fauj, etc. Everything and his legacy, all of these has been discussed in the important personality video. I have put all the important videos link in the description. Okay. Now we will see peasant movements in pre-Gandhian phase first. So one of the most important peasant movement is Indigo Rebellion, which will happen from 1859 to 62. Peasants in Bengal launched a movement for non-cultivation of indigo due to low prices, lack of profit, and soil degradation. Supported by press and missionaries like Harishchandra Mukherjee and Dinbandhu Mitra, who will write Neel Darpan. Okay. Then there will be a Pabna movement from 1870s to 1880s. Agrarian League formed in Pabna district to organize rent strikes against landlords, supported by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, who will write Anandmat, Ramesh Chandra Dutt, and Indian Association under Surendranath Banerjee. Then an important peasant movement is Deccan Rights in 1875. Riots in Deccan suffered heavy taxation and organized a social boycott movement against Marwadis and Gujarati moneylenders. Deccan Agriculturist Relief Act was passed in 1879. Then Gandhian phase peasant movements. So the first is Champaran Satyagraha, which we had discussed. Second is Kheda Satyagraha which Gandhiji and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel supported peasants in Kheda district of Gujarat in withholding revenue payments due to crop failure. Government considered the demand. There will be Mokpala rebellion. Per se, there is it is not launched by Gandhiji, but it somehow coincided with the non-cooperation movement. So Muslim Mokpala tenants in Malabar revolted against Hindu landlords over lack of tenure, security, and high rents. Movement merged with Khilafat agitation but turned ugly because it acquired communal overtones. There was a widespread violence, and that is why it is being criticized as well. The fourth important movement is Bardoli Satyagraha, which happened in 1928. It was led by Vallabhbhai Patel, led a no revenue campaign by Bardoli peasants against 30% land revenue hike. British appointed an inquiry committee and reduced the enhancement. Here, the women's of Bardoli gave the title of Sardar to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Okay. There are all other important movements as well. In 1940s also there will be movements which will be launched in Bengal. Okay, these are also important. So if you have read, then you can revise it in brief manner. Okay, but these are extremely important. Specifically, Bardoli and Champaran Satyagraha are very, very important. Okay, now we have discussed separately revolutionary movement in a separate video. Okay, you can see the whole playlist as well, because I am adding this video in that history playlist only, so you can watch revolutionary movements as well in great detail. I have discussed about all the revolutionary movements. So alongside the non-violent Gandhian movement, revolutionary activities also played a great role in the Indian freedom struggle. These movements aim to overthrow British rule through armed resistance and targeted attacks. So initially, the foundation stone of all these revolutionary nationalism was erected by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who is also known as Lokmanya Tilak and Veer Savarkar. Okay, and then in Bengal there will be involvement of Aurobindo Ghosh. There will be establishment of Anusilan Samiti in 1902 in Bengal. Alipur conspiracy will happen in 1908. Okay, in which Aurobindo Ghosh will be also tried. There will be establishment of Yugantar Weekly by Barindra Kumar Ghosh and Bhupendranath Datta. And there will be a famous movement which is also known as Chittagong Armory Raid in 1930, which will be launched by the Surya Sen, or popularly known as Masterda. You can see the picture of Masterda, and there will be involvement of a lot of women in this Chittagong Armory Raid as well. Okay. In Maharashtra, there will be Ramosi Peasant Force in 1879. Mitra Mela or Abhinav Bharat Samiti was established by Veer Savarkar. There will be Hindu Dharma Sangrakshini Sabha, which will be established in 1894. Punjab will also become a hotbed of revolutionary nationalism. First, there will be establishment of Hindustan Republican Association, which will work mostly in Uttar Pradesh, but Hindustan Socialist Republican Association, or Naujawan Bharat Sabha under Shahid Azam Bhagat Singh, will work mostly from the state of the present day Punjab. Okay. So we will now discuss the important committees and commissions that were established by Britishers before independence. For education, they established Hunter Commission in 1882, Raleigh Commission in 1902, which is also known as a University Act, and Sadler Commission in 1917. Also, there are more like Wood's Dispatch, etc., which you would have read. For famine, they established Campbell Commission in 1866, Strachey Commission in 1880, and Lal Commission in 1886. For currency, they established Mansfield Commission in 1886, Fowler Commission in 1898, Babington Smith Commission in 1919. Others were Simon Commission, which was established to investigate governance; Sapuru Commission, which was established to for studying about unemployment; Hilton Young Commission for currency. There are some important newspapers and journals which we will discuss. Like Bengal Gazette was started by James Augustus Hickey, Samvad Comedy by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Kesari by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Prabuddha Bharat by Swami Vivekanand, Indian Opinion by Mahatma Gandhi, Harijan also by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, Mook Naik by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Bande Mataram by Aurobindo Ghosh. There are more important newspaper and journals which are given in the back pages of Spectrum, which you can read. But these are bare minimum that you should know. Okay, like Young India also by Mahatma Gandhi, New India by Annie Besant. All of these you need to remember. Okay, with this we have covered all the important themes in one video of modern history. And if you want to know things in greater detail, you can watch all the playlist, or I have put certain important videos link in the description. Thank you very much. Take care. Best wishes.